Welcome back to the Lars Larson Show. It's a pleasure to be with you. I'll get back to your phone calls and emails shortly, but it is a great pleasure to welcome back to the program the man who is running for the United States Senate in Nevada. He is Danny Tarkanian, a businessman, and he's been on the program before, and I've appreciated his appearances. But, Danny, you said something in your campaign this week. You indicated to the the left-wing lunatics over at MSNBC that you would consider gun control legislation if elected to the Senate. Tell me what you meant.
Well, you're taking that out of context, and that was from some conservative national media group that took certain parts of what was I said out of context of what was done. The gentleman asked me on the show, are you in favor of gun control, or are you in favor of whatever? And I said, look, we've only been involved, this only happened 36 hours ago. We don't even know what happened. We don't know how for sure he got the guns. We don't know exactly how they operated. Now that you're hearing some more things, you don't know what his motivation was. I said, look, I'm all in favor of minimizing these type of actions, because these you can't stop them completely. But I said, we need to minimize these type of horrendous acts as long as it is within our Constitution and we don't deprive anybody of their constitutional rights. Now, if you listen to that show that I was on, you're going to see I said that twice.
Can I read? I'll read the act. I mean, tell me if these are your words. You were asked, if elected, you're going to be one of those lawmakers that goes to D.C. and does something about gun control. And you said, yeah, I will go there and try to find whatever solution we can, gun control or whatever otherwise, to minimize these types of activities. You maintain that something needs to happen on a congressional level, some sort of legislation that addresses this. And your answer was, of course. Now, I got to tell you something. I think we've got all the gun laws we need, because if they actually use the gun laws already on the books, we would more than control the problem of criminals who commit crimes with guns. So what new legislation could you imagine as a candidate for Senate that would have made a difference in either this or other kinds of crimes committed with guns?
Lars, I appreciate you having me on, and I appreciate you giving me a chance to respond to this, but you were taking that completely out of context. Much of what you stated was what the host had said to me, and I would have been irresponsible to say to the host, look, I'm not going to discuss anything.
No, I'm not saying that, but Danny, with all due respect, when people ask me this question, I say, no. We don't need new gun laws. We need to enforce the ones we already have. And there is no gun law I could even imagine in my wildest imaginings that would actually change either this situation or far less, deadly situations. There isn't another law that you can imagine, but there are a lot of laws already on the books that could be enforced to a greater degree that would make a massive difference in the problem of criminals.
Yeah. Lars, I appreciate that, and that's what I was getting at when he asked me that question. I said to him that there was another person on that had given solutions, and none of those solutions would have affected what happened at that place, and that I said that whatever solutions there were would have to minimize these type of activities and would have to be constitutional. In fact, it's very similar to what Dean Heller just said when he was asked on Fox News today. He said, look, he doesn't want to take away anybody's Second Amendment rights, but if someone can show him something that would stop these type of activities and actually work, he'd be in favor of it. And that's what I said. I didn't say there was any solutions to it. I'm not aware. I want to hear what somebody else has that can give any kind of credence to there being a solution. There hasn't been any but one that have been brought up. And in fact, I mentioned that on the show. That's why I said you're taking some of that out of context. The one thing you're seeing right now, I don't believe this is gun control, but you see that I think this is more a rule of law issue, is with these block.
The bump stocks.
Bump stocks, yeah.
And I've already said I'm in favor. I don't care if they ban bump stocks. They were approved by the Obama administration, and they're goofy devices as far as I'm concerned.
But that's something that would have minimized this event.
No, actually,
it would be constitutional.
Danny, I'm going to respectfully disagree with you. I don't think taking away the bump stocks would have minimized this because, look, I have AR-15s. If a man sat in that hotel room window and shot with an ordinary AR-15, he could have and probably could have, God forbid, been even more deadly than Stephen Paddock was with a bump stock. A bump stock ruins aim. An AR-15 is a very accurate rifle at a very long distance. So, I mean, that's the practical side of that. But that's why every time somebody says, Lars, aren't you in favor of more laws? I say, there isn't a law I can think of that would have changed this situation.
Okay. But Lars, if somebody said, are you against sitting down and discussing if there's any way to minimize it? Your answer would be, well, there are none. Why won't you say what I said?
I would say there are no new laws that are needed. We need to enforce the laws we already have, because I've spent 20 years talking about everybody's idea for smart guns and this gun and that gun and new ways to screen people. There's nothing out there that has any prospect from changing this one iota. And I think that message needs to get across. And every time they talk about writing a new law, you know what they're talking about. Essentially, the folks on the other side of the aisle in the U.S. Senate, where you want to be, believe if we write enough laws, we can get rid of this problem. And there is no truth to that.
Well, first of all, that there is a lot of people in the Senate, and myself would included if I was there, that would understand that none of the suggestions that have been made would have about how these gun laws restrictions would have worked and minimized what happened in that hotel room. We can argue whether the one device would or not, but none of the other ones they talked about, and I said that on the show, Lars. I mean, again, you're taking just part of it out of it.
Well, hold on, but when you say taken out of context, if somebody had asked me, if elected, will you go to Washington and do something about gun control, I'd have said, I will go to Washington and get rid of unnecessary laws. I don't think we need new laws to fix this problem or address this problem. But you gave them an opening by saying, yeah, you would go.
I said I would be there and be part of that discussion, but I would not agree to anything that did not minimize those activities and protected our constitutional rights. I said that twice about the constitutional rights, which again, under that context, the constitutional right we're talking about is our Second Amendment. So I think I said exactly what you said, in that I would not vote for anything that would infringe upon our constitutional rights, and it had to minimize these type of activities. I think it was basically the same thing you were saying, but it was being more saying, I'd listen to the dialogue, but there isn't any dialogue that you can provide that, or any solution that you can provide that would have that answer.
Danny, you know, I like you as a candidate, but when he asked you, you maintain that something needs to happen, some sort of legislation that addresses this. Your answer was, of course. I don't think there's any kind of legislation that would have made this better.
I don't believe that's the case. I'd have to go back and watch the interview, but it was an MSNBC interview. The guy was trying to get me to say certain things, and I think I was very clear that I would be open to any dialogue. And this is what I said, Lars. I would be open to any. Look, we just had the worst shooting in the history of the United States in my hometown, and 59 people died. I said I would be open to any dialogue that discussed ways to minimize these type of atrocities and were within our Constitution. I think that's a pretty reasonable response. If I would have said, listen, I'm not going to be open to any dialogue, and these 59 people that died, I'm not going to discuss it.
Danny, with all due respect, dialogue is one thing. You were asked, is there legislation to address this? And you said, of course. And that's an opener for the lefties.
I don't believe that's the case. And I'm going to go back and watch it just because you said it, and I'm going to go back and see it very carefully. He was asking me if I would be open, if I would be part of the dialogue. And I said, yes, I'd be part of the dialogue as long as it minimized these activities and were constitutional.
We got 30 seconds. We got 30 seconds, Danny. I'm talking to Danny Tarkanian from Nevada, who's running for the U.S. Senate in the primary against Dean Heller, who does need to be replaced. Do you know of anything that has ever been suggested to you that in a change in the law that would make any kind of positive change in this kind of situation?
If you noticed, I also was on the station the day before, and I said very clearly to that person, you guys want to legislate common decency and evil, and you can't do that. I said that very clearly in my other interview, which you don't bring up. I made that point clear. I don't know of any other solution. Now, we talked about this mechanism on the gun that changes a gun from semi-automatic to automatic. You say it wouldn't have made a difference, but some people are saying it would. If it would have made a difference, and it's already regulations on those type of automatic weapons. It's not gun control. It's trying to close a loophole of our rule of law.
Danny, I'm up against it.